Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for being here. Wednesday, June 25th. Happy NBA Draft Day to all y'all basketball heads out there. Obviously, pulling for the Magic to be able to, continue to improve their roster. But right now, we're talking about the Jaguars, obviously, and their roster. Potential veteran cuts. This was a question I hadn't thought about a ton. But Hacker asked me the other day and got me thinking a little bit. Wanted to provide a list of players who I consider veterans, and we don't need to get into like some long discussion here about like what a veteran technically is in the NFL. For me, for the purposes of this exercise, you've had at least 3 years in the league. You've actually played some real snaps. And this is not going to be including guys the Jaguars signed this offseason who also might not make the team. This is players who have been around here who fans know and might be surprised, might not be surprised if they don't make the team. And this is not an indictment. This is not a referendum. This is not saying these guys are not going to make the team. This is just looking at the roster, looking at how the Jaguars have moved since James Gladstone and Liam Cohen and Tony Boselli took over. Guys that maybe, you cut it down from 90 to 53. It's some guys are going to get cut, right? A lot of guys are going to get cut. We will start with somebody who was, for a lot of people, a bit of a head scratching signing last year, Darnell Savage. Jaguars signed him to be a starter at safety last year. Safety / nickel. Don't know if they knew exactly what they wanted to do with him. He's a very good athlete. He's a capable player. He dealt with some injuries last year. I don't think he's reached his ceiling in the NFL or played to his ceiling consistently. He is a player that they brought in last year, the previous regime, to play more man. They thought he could do that at a pretty high level. Again, last season didn't go the way anybody really wanted it to in Jacksonville. But Darnell Savage, I think he's going to make the team. If I had to predict it, I did put him on the 53. But the argument for him to not make the team potentially, if they consider him safety / versatile defensive back, there's just a lot of safeties on the roster right now. They signed Eric Murray. He's going to be starting for them this year, right? They signed him this year. You also have Caleb Ransaw, who the Jaguars drafted with their second pick in the 2025 NFL draft. You also have Rayon Lane, who I think is going to make the team by virtue of being an elite special teams player at the very least. You have Dewey Wingert. I don't think he's going anywhere. Antonio Johnson is going to be competing for the roster, and he's a very good special teams player. Daniel Thomas is another one who I have on this list who's been around. He hasn't played a ton of meaningful snaps defensively. He has played some, but this is really a comment about the safety room, and we talked a lot about the safety room yesterday, me thinking potentially it could be a weakness in 2025. I don't think depth will be the issue. I think, your guys at the top of the depth chart here could be potentially an issue, and that's just a possibility. Eric Murray did play well last year. Caleb Ransaw is a good football player, but you're talking about a rookie that's converting positions and a veteran stopgap option. So yeah, that might not be the best group on the team, but there is depth. Again, Darnell Savage has played meaningful snaps in this league. Andrew Wingard has as well. Antonio Johnson, a lot of people were excited about last year. Daniel Thomas has been around for a long time, very good special teamer. So I think it's possible Darnell Savage does not make the team. Obviously, from a cap implication standpoint, there's not a lot that would change if they release him for the 2025 campaign. And the Jaguars have plenty of cap space. I think a team with James Gladstone as the general manager is going to want to have the flexibility to make a move or multiple moves throughout the season if they feel like, okay, we're really close to being as competitive as we possibly can be with this build. Maybe we want to go out and pursue a veteran that can help us get over the top and maybe make us a true contender, right? Whatever it may be, maybe multiple. I don't think that like moving on from Darnell Savage in training camp or at the end of training camp preseason would be a move that would really help them in that regard. You wouldn't save a ton of money against the cap, so it's not like he would be a cap casualty at this point. But again, he just, depending on how things go out on the field in training camp in the preseason, I just don't know how this safety room is going to shake out. There's 4 guys I feel pretty confident are going to make the roster. It's Eric Murray, it's Caleb Ransaw, it's Rayon Lane, it's Andrew Wingard. Beyond that, Darnell Savage, Antonio Johnson, Daniel Thomas, I don't know. And the good thing for Darnell Savage is he does have positional versatility, right? They could view him as a player that just has enough versatility that they can feel good about keeping him around. But that remains to be seen. It also remains to be seen how willing he's going to be super active on special teams. Nothing in his past kind of indicates that he wouldn't be, but something to keep in mind. So, moving on from the Darnell Savage conversation to Chad Muma. Chad Muma is a player the Jaguars drafted in the 3rd round of the 2022 NFL draft. Is that right? Yep. 70 overall, 2022. That was such a bizarre offseason at linebacker. So strange. You sign Foye Oluokun can do a mega deal. Not mega, but big deal for a linebacker. Top 5 at the time. You trade up for Devin Lloyd, and then you go draft Chad Muma in the 3rd round. And then the next year go draft Ventrell Miller, right? So, I mean, very strange stuff from Trent Baalke. But Chad Muma, there's just a lot of competition at linebacker to make the roster. And they added more when they drafted Jack Kaiser. Jalen McLeod also might be considered a linebacker. He's an edge / linebacker. So you look at it, Foye obviously on the team. I think Devin is obviously on the team. I think he's penciled in as their starter, probably almost written in pen as their starter next to Foye Oluokun, at least to start the season. You've got Chad Muma, you've got Ventrell Miller, you've got Jack Kaiser, who the Jaguars drafted in the 4th round. You've got Jalen McLeod potentially as a linebacker, whatever you want to call him, 6th round. And then you also got Dennis Gardeck, who's an edge / linebacker. Yasir Abdullah, who's an edge / linebacker. So depending on how they want to have this roster shaped and depending on how they view Chad Muma as compared to Ventrell Miller and Jack Kaiser, if they want to go with guys that are more like edge / off-ball linebackers that provide more versatility, that could be a tough situation for Chad Muma. There's no question about that in my mind. Now, when it comes to special teams, Chad has been pretty good, and he's played a lot of special teams. So that could be a potential ace for him, ace in the hole, being able to play as a core 4 special teamer and do it at a pretty high level. I'm not saying he's another one. I think he will make the team. I would think it would be Foye, Devin, Chad, Ventrell, and Jack as your 5 off-ball linebackers. That's kind of how I would view it. But it's possible. The next one, I don't think he's going to make the team. But he could. He definitely could. It's Luke Fortner. Another one who was a 3rd-round draft pick by the Jaguars in 2022. Started his rookie year, started his 2nd year, did not play well. Jaguars realized they needed to pivot. They went and got Mitch Morse. And now Mitch Morse is retired, and they've put Robert Hainsey in there, who comes over with Liam Cohen from Tampa. You look at the situation with Luke Fortner, And I honestly think that even though he has a connection with Jaguars' new head coach Liam Cohen, I honestly just think it could be very sticky for him because he hasn't played very well the last few years. His rookie year was somewhat promising, but still wasn't like he was close to a Pro Bowl or like good starter. He was just like pretty promising for a rookie. And then he regressed. Robert Hainsey is the clear starter, right? The Jaguars drafted Jonah Monheim with the 25th, or excuse me, with the seventh pick and seventh round pick, in 2025 this year. The biggest issue for me with Luke Fortner is I think Patrick McCarry. If I'm the Jaguars and I'm looking at how to stack this offensive line and to best position ourselves throughout the entire roster, give us flexibility. For me, I'd be viewing Patrick McCarry as the backup center behind Robert Hainsey. And I would have, then my next plan would be, okay, if I have to move McCarry inside to center, then we get Ezra Cleveland and we get Wyatt Milam in the starting lineup. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. You could also have Chuma Edoga and Fred Johnson have both played a little bit of guard, so you could look at that as well. So they've got a lot of options at guard. And I think Patrick McCarry is their second best option at center. And they drafted Jonah Monheim. So that's kind of the issue there. Offensive line, you don't have a lot of numbers. So yeah, it's tough. Luke Fortner might be looking for work, even though he does have the connection playing for Liam Cohen at Kentucky. He might make the team. We'll see. But I don't think he has enough versatility to play guard. Another one that's been around, Cole Van Lanen, he's played some snaps. He's obviously a backup, but he might have a tough time making this roster depending on how things go. Again, with a lot of the guys that they brought in, 4 veteran free agents and 2 draft picks on the offensive line. So, Cole Van Lanen, it could be tough for him. Javon Foster hasn't been around a long time, certainly not a veteran, but he could have a tough time making this roster on the offensive line as well. Couple guys that maybe some folks might be looking at. I don't think that they'll be cut at all. I think that the Jaguars actually feel like they might have something good. Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, I think they're both going to play a ton of snaps for the Jaguars on the interior. And then Buster Brown, I think, is definitely going to be on this football team as well as a veteran who's been around here for a little while. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content here, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.